Hey everyone, it's Ron Johnson. This is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. On today's show, the Vikings are 5-1 going into the bye week. But there's some sneaky things people aren't really catching on to just yet. There's a reason this team is 5-1. Rickey Foggie talks about it. I talk about it. And yes, Rickey Foggie is going to join me. Former Gophers quarterback, former Canadian League quarterback, Rickey Foggie is going to join me on the Monday morning quarterback segment. And hanging with Ron Johnson. Coming up next, we're going to tell you, though, why are the Vikings 5-1 and what can they do to not repeat history? Stay tuned.
On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. One-of-a-kind opinions, big-name guests, the teams you care about every day. It's the Ron Johnson Show, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Ron Johnson Show, and as I stated earlier, I'm your host, Ron Johnson. Looking forward to today's show. Like I said, Rickey Foggie is going to join us. We're going to talk Vikings. And like I said, there is something sneaky about this team that people are overlooking. There's a little difference in this Vikings team. There's a little something to this Vikings team. There's a little get over the hump, I'll call it. They're getting over the hump. It's not hump day. It's just Monday. But this Vikings team has found a way to get over the hump. Something they haven't done the last 2 years. How are they getting over the hump? Well, I'll talk about it. But before I do that, make sure you remember, you can now find Locked On Sports Minnesota on Amazon Fire and Roku. Just download the Locked On Sports Minnesota app, and you'll get all your favorite shows. We have to talk about this. The Vikings are 5-1. And when I made my early season prediction, as I do every year with the Vikings on Vikings.com, I get all the tweets, all the hate. You're a homer. You're just doing it because the Vikings are paying you. If the Vikings weren't putting this video out, you wouldn't say that. Maybe. But you know what? We'll never know because they are heading towards 12-5. If you look at this Viking schedule, they are 5-1. And I'll let Sam give me his thoughts on the Viking schedule as well. When you look at this Viking schedule, they are heading for I'm not going to be too overzealous about this because anything can happen. This is the NFL. Teams still find a way to lose games that they should win. I should know. I grew up in Detroit, and the Lions always find a way to lose a game that they should win. And so if you look at the Vikings right now, they beat the Packers, the Lions, and the Bears. So they've run through their own division, Sam. And then if you look at the upcoming games, the Dolphins we thought might have been a tough game, but Tua was out. I still don't think the Dolphins beat him with Tua. I think Tua does something that the early quarterback and Skylar Thompson did that Tua doesn't do, which is move out the pocket and get a first down with his legs a lot better. And then what Teddy Bridgewater did was try not to make too much happen. He threw for 329 yards. A lot of it was in comeback mode, but the Vikings gave up 458 yards of offense, and they still found a way to win. Well, how'd they do it? Let's look at the schedule first before we jump into that. You got the Cardinals, who looked horrible for most of that game, and they're playing the Vikings coming out the bye. The Vikings are going to be rested. Mm-hmm. You got to have guys healthy, all the little nagging injuries that you might have saw. I think I saw Chris Boyd come up lame on a punt, so who knows with that hamstring, if it's hopefully it's just a little twinge, and he gets 2 weeks to rest it before he has to play again. You got the Commanders, which I think that should be a win, and then you got a tough one with the Bills. Let's just call that a loss. But now they're 7-2. You move on to the Cowboys. Who knows what that's going to look like now because I think the quarterback controversy is kind of out. The Eagles make every quarterback look bad, though. But no, you can't put Dak on the bench after Cooper Rush because an undefeated quarterback is tough to bench, but not a quarterback who just went out there and had 3 interceptions against the Eagles. So now Dak is going to walk back in, and it's his team again. So you got the Dak Prescott Dallas Cowboys coming to Minnesota at 325. Even if you were to call that a loss, the Patriots are playing a lot better now. The Bill Belichick team is playing well. I'm not going to talk about that game. The Jets are playing well. I won't talk about that. But the Lions should be a win. The Colts should be a win. The Giants, we're not going to talk about that one. They're good. I think the Packers, who knows? And then you got the Bears. That's another win. So now we're at 10 wins. Got 10 wins. You got 2 losses. You're 10-2 with 5 games up in the air, Sam. Quick twitch. Let me know what you think about this. You got the Patriots, the Jets, you got the Giants and the Packers, and you also, who did I forget? Oh, and the Cowboys. Sorry, so those 5 games. You're 10-2 with those 5 games. I don't see them losing all 5 of those games, Sam. Like, I mean, unless it just is a meltdown and they go 10-7, I don't see them losing those 5. And that's why I say they can easily be 12-5, because if you split with those teams, you beat the Jets, let's say you beat the Giants, because I think they can keep Daniel Jones, but he can run. So that's this run game that's hurt this team a little bit. But I think, they don't have the receivers they used to have. But I don't see them losing those 5 games. That's why I say 12-5 is right there. But I don't know. What do you say, Sam? Early quick touch of those. If they're 10-2, but then those 5 games are up in the air, what are your thoughts? Patriots, Cowboys, Giants, Jets, Packers.
Yeah, I think you broke that down the exact same way I would have actually. Like, I think that 10 is super attainable because you've got 5 games where I bet you have a 75% chance to win. Cardinals, Commanders, Colts, Lions, and Bears, right? So that gets you 10, and you lay that out well. Can you go 40%, win 2 out of 5 against the other tough ones? I think you can. Bills are your toughest game of the year, but then beating the Cowboys at home, you can definitely do that. Beating the Patriots at home. Who knows who the quarterback's going to be, but I'm not sure the Patriots are that scary on the road on a short week with any quarterback. I'm more scared about Belichick. I'm more scared about what he schemes up, but that's a winnable game. The Jets and Giants are the 2 where you didn't expect those to be hard games when the schedule came out. Now, they're both at home, and I think you're going to be favored by, 3 to 7 points in both of those games. So if the Vikings just lose to the Bills, like let's say that's a guaranteed loss, and then they split against Cowboys, Patriots, Jets, Giants, and I guess the Packers in the mix too, and who knows where the Packers will be at that point. A dozen wins is remarkably, it's on the table. Now, this assumes, Ron, that they won't slip up, right, against one of those worst teams. And they've kind of been toying with some of these bad teams, and that does scare me a little bit. But if this team comes out of the bye playing some of its best football and showing improvement, there's no reason why they can't put up a gaudy record in this NFC North.
This is what I'll say, too, and I didn't even realize this. This just hit me because you brought that up. The Patriots having to travel on the short week. The Vikings don't have to travel. Now, they are going to have a tough game that night, which is crazy to have a night game Sunday night or late afternoon game and then play again. I don't think the NFL thinks this through half the time. Like, I honestly don't. Like, why are they playing at 3:25 and then they have even a shorter week? Even though, it's only a couple hours. That couple hours is huge when you can put ice on your body and rest and not have to, go through the night sore. You can actually ice up all day before you have to go to bed. Like, I don't think the NFL thinks this through, but whatever. That's a totally different subject. But they have to travel. So the Vikings do have the upper hand there. They don't have to travel. They get to stay home. They get to actually have Thanksgiving morning if they want to head back home for a little bit, because I'm pretty sure Kevin O'Connell, being young, being a family guy, because they all stay at the Omni. So they'll probably get to stay at the Omni, but then it's like you don't have to stay in the hotel all day. If you're going to go home quick to hang out with your family, get some food, they know the guys aren't going to drink, so they're not worried about that. Go home, have some quick, whatever, a midday brunch, if you want to call it. Get back here for some film, and then we're going to head to the stadium, be to the stadium by whatever time. Kevin O'Connell might actually be even nicer and say, hey, just stay home. I trust you guys to rest your body. Vets, if you want to be with your family tonight for Thanksgiving. But, this is one. And this is what I thought about. Game at 7:20, Vikings fan line after that. Sam, most of us will still be up. We might as well just go Black Friday shopping, right after the game. I don't think Minnesota understands how packed some of their stores can be with happy Vikings fans that just beat the Patriots, that are still out on the town at midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., that are going to want to get some shopping in at their, closest store to go get a TV or a PlayStation or an Xbox, whatever it is. That's actually fun, but that's neither here nor there. We're not going to jump into Black Friday yet. That's way too far out. Sam, this is where I go when I say I was going to pay off the tease. Do not repeat history. Here's why. The Vikings went 5-1 in 2016. Everybody keeps talking about that. But what they're forgetting is they went 5-0. They went 5-0 in 2016. That was the Laquan Treadwell draft year. They went 5-0, and then they lost 4 games. So, yes, they went 5-1, but they also went 5-2, 5-3, 5-4. And then everybody's like, oh, we're so great. We're 5-0. We're going to the Super Bowl. Wait, we're 5-4. We suck. And that's how Vikings fans are. Go back on Twitter. You can see it. I went back yesterday and looked at it. It was absolute, every loss, 1, 2, 3, then 4. Fans were just like, oh, we're the same team we thought we were. Like Denny Green, you right. We were who we thought we were. And then they went 8-8 and missed the playoffs. They went 7-8 before they faced the Bears. And they beat the Bears, which meant nothing because I think they needed another team to win before them. And they made sure those games played at the same time. So that Bears game would actually be like a good game versus putting it at 325 or 7 something. And then all of a sudden they see the team before them win. And they're like, well, we can't make the playoffs anyway. So boom, let's just mail this in and rest everybody. But they went 8-8 and they missed the playoffs. Here's the big difference. The defense was the question mark. Mike Zimmer's defense, they're like, if the defense is not good, the offense is doing well, what's going on with this team? We have to get rid of the coach because his defense is the problem. The defense is still giving up 458 yards. 458 yards, Samuel. 458 yards. When you look at this Dolphins, like you look at the stats, and this is what's crazy to me. 234 yards for the Vikings to the Dolphins 458. Passing yards. A passing quarterback in Kirk Cousins with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen threw for 156 yards in the air. The Dolphins threw for 385, Sam. Yards per play, 4.7 for the Vikings, a whopping 6.3 yards per play for the Dolphins. First downs. Maybe they dominated first downs. Nope, 11 first downs for the Vikings to the Dolphins, 20-3. They doubled them in first downs. Third down efficiency. Got to be better there, right? Nope. 2 for 12. 2 for 12. Dolphins 4 for 14. Fourth down efficiency, the Dolphins got 1 for 2 because they had to go for it. Total play. Now, this is where it's baffling to me. Total plays. There were 123 plays ran in this game. 73 of them were from the Dolphins. The Vikings only 50. Now, here's the one. Sacks allowed. Dolphins got sacked 6 times. Punts. The Vikings punted 10 times. Dolphins only punted 6. But penalties, that's another one. 2 penalties for the Vikings, 10 for the Dolphins. And so what's the big difference, Sam? And Rickey Foggie alluded to it. You got a coach that came in with a culture that's like, look, man, we're going to be collaborative. We're going to all get along. I want the defense to like the offense. I want the offense to like the defense. We're not going to point fingers. We're all on the same side. Hey, if you guys give up 458, we're going to just have to score. And that's what this team is doing. The defense is getting the ball back when they need to. Special teams is playing alert. In the past, it was always penalties. People are like, man, the Vikings are always jumping off sides. They're always holding. They're always doing something stupid. They're always doing something to kill a drive. The Dolphins had like 6 penalties on that one drive, that opening drive with Skylar Thompson, where he kept getting big play after big play after big play to Jalen Waddle, to Tyreek Hill, to Raheem Mostert. Big play after big play after big play, and then it's like, flag. I felt like Groundhog's Day. Like, literally, I felt like every time they ran a play, it was a big play. We're all like, oh, my God, they're going to score. Flag, bring it back. Like, every single time. Like, I saw Bill Murray standing there, like, looking like, oh, here we go again. Wait, yep, let me do this again. It's a flag after a flag after a flag. And that 4th and 32 punt that the Dolphins had to have versus a field goal, that changed the game. Like, that changed the game. Those penalties, the Dolphins shot themselves in the foot. That game was theirs for the taking. The Vikings were giving it to them. But Kevin O'Connell's offense, find a way to just make enough plays, found a way to get it done, found a way to stay together as a team. I love seeing Kirk Cousins get pissed off at somebody. I don't know who ran the wrong route because it could have, everybody's saying Justin Jefferson, but he was throwing it to, it could have been a corner route he was throwing or a fade. So Justin Jefferson ran a hitch. Maybe he had a fade because it was press. Or maybe Justin Jefferson thought he had a hitch because the slot receiver had a corner route. Either way, Kirk Cousins was pissed off. I loved it because that's what we see in other fiery quarterbacks like Tom Brady, like Drew Brees when he would do it. You love to see it because it's not like malicious. It's just like, man, we're better than this. Come on. Because you know Kirk Cousins not over there MFing anybody. He's just like, come on, guys. Frick, what's going on? And what happened? Kevin O'Connell comes over, calms him down, and says, hey, look, we got this. We're good. Hey, maybe it was my fault. Maybe I threw in the wrong check, and that play meant this to this guy and this to this guy. Like, whatever. Kevin O'Connell calmed down Kirk. If Kirk Cousins had got pissed off and at a play in a game, I don't think Mike Zimmer is coming over to calm his quarterback down. I think he's going to put the headset on and run his defense and look over and be like, man, take care of that. Y'all look over. And Kirk Cousins would have sat on the bench fuming for the next 5 minutes while the defense was out there. not talking to us. No, what did Kevin Conlon do? He went over there. Hey, you guys got the defense, man. Go run the defense, Ed. I got this. He went over there, calmed Kirk down. Kurt's now talking to receivers, and they got back on the same page. Justin Jefferson, 107 yards, didn't even feel like a big day. It didn't. But then what happened? Kevin O'Connell dialed up plays to get Kirk Cousins going again. He made sure this team knew this is our game. Like, it feels bad, but we're going to win this. And so that's the big difference to me. And Rickey Foggie brought it up. I don't know, Sam, what did you see in your final thoughts before we get out of here and then get to the hanging with Ron Johnson segment with Rickey Foggie? What were your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, final thoughts. Vikings just know how to win ugly. They've mastered a skill that they did not know how to master last year, and that's huge. Like, winning ugly counts. If you look back at, like, the 2017 Vikings that won 13 games, a lot of those games were ugly too. If you go game by game, they maybe won 4 or 5 convincingly that season. So that's just part of what elite teams have to do. They have to win ugly games down the road. And yes, the Vikings need to clean a lot up. But in a mediocre NFC, the Vikings are just slightly better. And that's enough right now. So as long as there keeps being an ascension toward the end of this season, I think the Vikings could be in business.
Well, if you guys are looking for a daily podcast, check out Locked On Sports Minnesota. Locked On Sports Minnesota gives you endless Vikings talk with local experts. Get your daily 30 minutes of sports with KARE-11 sports anchor Reggie Wilson going back and forth with his co-host Luke Inman. It's fast, it's fun, it's superior sports talk. Your daily Minnesota sports show. And don't forget, we have a word from our sponsors.
BetOnline.net, we've been tracking it every day during this football season. It's your number one source for football betting info. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and make sure you're tracking all of the Vikings lines. No line this week. It's a bye. We can start looking ahead soon, though, to next week in that Cardinals line. The Gophers, let's take a look at what they're facing against Penn State. 4.5 point underdogs and a 44.5 over-under in that game. It's not just football. It's MLB, NBA, NHL, MMA, boxing, and golf, the whole 9 yards at betonline.net. Use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts, and make sure you check out NFL key predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. Locked On's local experts give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, including Sunday and Monday Night Football, plus betting advice from the field's leading experts, BetOnline. Follow NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.
And that was the Hanging with Ron Johnson segment. Today, as I promised, Rickey Foggie, former Gophers quarterback. According to Daryl Thompson, though, he was a running back because he never threw the ball. He always wanted to run the ball because he liked to use his legs. But Rickey, I want to thank you for joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. Let's just jump out there, man. Let's talk about that first. We've had Daryl Thompson on the show. He's talked about his career, his time at Minnesota. When you were a Gopher, what was your favorite memory or game or just time being a Gophers football player back when you played?
It's hard to just pinpoint one thing, man, because we had such a good team chemistry. We had a bunch of guys that just like to hang around each other, compete, and on and off the field together. And so I think just if I've got to choose one game, it's got to be Michigan in 1986 when we went down there in the big house. It was 29-point underdog. And we ended up upsetting them with Chip Lowmiller kicking the last second field goal to beat them. I think it was 17-14. And to listen to 101,000 people go silent, it definitely was gratifying and probably my biggest win in my college career.
Yeah, and I definitely know what that feels like to silence a giant crowd like that. We did that in Penn State. We did at Ohio State. So I know that's a fun time. When you fast forward and now you're back on campus, you were here for homecoming. You've been around for other games, though. But what are you starting to see with this campus atmosphere, with the stadium? The fans were excited. And now, a little bit of consternation when you look at a loss to Purdue, loss to Illinois. But overall, how are you feeling about this program right now?
I'm really good. It was great to just drive down University and see the kids out there tailgating back on campus. A couple years ago, because of COVID, it was almost like a ghost town. The atmosphere is great. I remember a couple of years ago when we couldn't get the college students to come to the game, and now the student section is packed. I feel really good about the program. I think that the last 2 weeks has been kind of a lure, coming out of the non-conference schedule 4-0, a lot of hype. I think we was really excited about this football team, but I think it's time for these guys to, you know, sit down, take a look in the mirror, and get this thing back on track. But I think PJ's done a great job of creating a positive culture over there. He's, you know, guys go to college who wants to eventually get into the NFL. I think he's doing a really good job of getting players to that next level. And so I'm really excited what's going, see what happens at the rest of the season. We see if we can get this thing back on track and still have a shot at winning the Big Ten West.
Yeah, and it looks like Tanner Morgan was knocked out the game. Who knows if he'll be back for this next game, which is a huge game at Penn State, 6:30 p.m. A game like that, that's the game players live for on ABC, whiteout crowd at Penn State. But when you think about Tanner Morgan and this team, everybody was saying, let's get Ethan Kaliamantis in the game. He comes in the game and he, looks like a freshman. Looks, trouble deciding on where to go with the ball, a little late on his delivery, questioning if I should throw it now or should I wait. When you look at the quarterback play overall, people don't understand how hard it really is. Playing quarterback is not an easy position. You did it at a high level. You played in Canada. You played in college football, it's tough. It's tough. We know that. But when you look at, let's start with Tanner first. When you look at Tanner Morgan, a kid that, could almost throw for 10,000 yards if he were to stay healthy this entire season and continue on. And people are starting to question, does he have it? What do you see in Tanner Morgan that makes him, such, I guess, an accurate quarterback?
I think the number one thing is he's got control of the offense. He's in his 6th year, so he's mature. He shouldn't see a defense that should surprise him at this point, and he is an accurate quarterback. So I think the important thing is that he can run the offense. I mean, you mentioned Daryl Thompson, so I had DT in the backfield. He's got Mo Ibrahim in the backfield, so that takes a lot of pressure off you as a quarterback if you can just turn around and hand the ball off to a guy who can get you 200 yards a game. So that takes a lot of pressure off of you, but you still got to go out there and compete. You got to complete those key passes at the right time. And, he's been a solid quarterback. I would rather have seen a more flashier RPO type run dual threat quarterback, but hey, I'm not the coach. So he's he's done well in this offense. And I think he continued to get better. So hopefully he's healthy for this upcoming game, because I would hate to see a redshirt freshman go down to Penn State this weekend in a whiteout game and try to ride his shoulders.
Yeah, and you look at your stats, almost 5,000 yards passing, 2,000 yards rushing. You bring up the RPO. That's the one thing. I had Tanner Morgan. I did a one-on-one with Tanner Morgan, and he and I sat down for a good little while and did an interview for the pregame show. And when you look at Tanner Morgan, one thing, and you said it, he knows he doesn't run a lot. He knows he's not fast. He did happen to score against Illinois. But do you think that's one of the things that teams are starting to key on now, that in this RPO, it's pretty much just run the ball with Mo or pass the ball? You don't have that other option of Tanner Morgan. Once he gets outside the pocket, he's going to take off and burn you for 20, 30 yards. As we saw, he ran, could have, if he had a second gear, that would have been an easy first down, if not more. Guy from the side or from the back, catches him, punches him in the side of the head. It looks like gets a concussion. But do you think that's one of the things that kind of, is now starting to hold him back, when it, like, people aren't scared of him to beat him with his legs?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, if you're going to run that type of offense, just look at the Philadelphia Eagles. What they're doing with Jalen Hurts. They're running that thing. He's killing the NFL with that RPO, and because he's worked on his throwing, he can run, and so I think it is. If you're going to run that RPO, you got to have those components as a quarterback. You got to be a dual threat. You got to be able to get on the corner, and because you are the one person and they can't defend. So with him not having that ability to, like you say, get that extra gear, I think it is hampering him in their offense at this point.
So you have Rashad Bateman, Tyler Johnson. You've had Chris Autman-Bell, now Daniel Jackson, Dalen Wright. You got a 6'7", 270-pound tight end in Brevin Spann-Ford. You look at John Michael Schmidt, one of the best centers in college football. You got Quinn Carroll, a great offensive tackle that transferred back from Illinois. You got Falingo from Michigan at guard. So, PJ Fleck through the transfer portal, through just recruiting is put together. And then, of course, you brought it up, Mo Ibram, really good offensive weapons. If you were to put yourself in this offense with this RPO with Kirk Shiraka, the check with me, he's actually helping you with the coverage because every time you check with him, he's going to make sure you can see everything that you might not be able to see from behind the center that he can see or the booth can see of like, hey, the safety's down a little bit lower than you probably think. We're going to run this play. Or, hey, they come into the box late because I saw a couple times with Illinois where there was like 15 seconds and they snapped the ball in Illinois blitz versus if they had done a fake go or some type of like fake, get that guy to walk up. Now it's a corner crash blitz. Now you can maybe run a different play like a bubble screen or something to know like you're not going to blitz me with the corner and cover my slot receiver with a linebacker coming from the inside. So it's little things like that. But how effective would you have been in PJ Fleck and Kirk Shiraka's offense as a quarterback yourself?
See, when we came into the Big Ten in 1984, which seemed like it was almost a century ago, it was a passing league, right? So you had like Jack Trudeau, Chuck Long, Harbaugh, all those guys was tossing the ball around. So what we did, we came in with the option. And so that was the old school form of the RPO. Like that was the real true on the line, you read it. And so it was tough to defend because everybody was working on the passing game. So, I was pretty fast and I was able to read the defense. We always had check with me, we was old school. That's the way we was prepped. We didn't have to look over to the sideline to see, what we was going to run. That's what we've been repped in practice every day. So we knew probably about 90% of our plays was check with me. And so, yeah, to be honest, if I was an RPO these days, I'd be deadly. Ain't no question about it. I couldn't really pass that well in college, but that's something I had to work on once I got to the CFL. But yeah, there's no question, man. I thought if me and DT we had the RPO today in our college game, seriously, we'd be almost unstoppable.
So Daryl Thompson loves to make jokes about that, man. What was it about? Like Daryl would be like, man, I'm wide open, and Rickey still wouldn't pitch it to me on the option. Like what was that? Did you trust yourself more than him, or you're just like, look, man, like I know you're out there, but I think I can make this play?
No, you see, you gotta remember, right? When when I came in, when I got here, it was me and a couple other decent running backs. So for 2 years, I was a primary runner in our offense.
Okay.
And so they gonna tell me, hey, we got this guy Daryl Thompson coming in, and he's gonna be able to be a great addition to our offense, right? So I was still the man. So DT had to wait and see, right? In my mind, I'm still the man until he got my complete confidence when I seen this cat go 99 yards at Michigan though. And so I kind of told myself, yeah, you better start pitching the ball to this guy a little bit more.
Oh, man. And one last one before we jump into the Daily Three. Of course, that's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. Sam's going to throw some questions at us. You'll take a minute and a half. I'll take a minute and a half. Be fast-paced, fun. But before we jump into that, a little NFL football, because this is the Monday morning quarterback segment. We got Rickey Foggie joining me on the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcast Network. And Rickey, when you think about NFL, because you played in the CFL, like you talked about, which is a true passing league. I went over there for 2 years and was with the Edmonton First. I think, what were they, Oilers or Eskimos? And then I got traded to Calgary. I forced my way to Calgary, I guess you want to say, because I wanted to be in Calgary. I don't know why. Everybody said it was a better city, so wanted to check it out. But yeah, it was a true passing league. It was nonstop. I mean, running backs, they were great to have because you didn't have as many down linemen. You didn't have as many linebackers in the box. And so if you had a fast running back to get on the edge, good luck. But yeah, when you look at a true passing league and so going to the NFL now, which has, it's become that, the running game for certain teams is out the door. When you look at the Rams, now with the Vikings, and now this team's relying on Kirk Cousins. And when you see Kirk Cousins Think about culture change, because we had, you talk about Brewster to Mason to Jerry Kill to Clays, now to PJ Fleck. Culture's changed. You look at Mike Zimmer, you look at Denny Green, and now you got Kevin O'Connell. Culture has changed. One reason I can see, Kirk Cousins is on the plane putting on diamond chains like he's Gucci Mane, or, like he's Lil Baby or something, sitting in the back of the plane, diamond out. Like the first week it was one chain, had a spinner. I think it was Chris Boyd's. This week, everybody I think that had a chain went over and put it on Kirk's neck. Kirk was rocking it on the plane on the way back last night. I love it because, one, he looks like a dad. Like, he looks like a granddad. Had his T-shirt tucked into his jogging pants, but he had the gold chains on, like LL Cool J back in the 80s. And so when you see a quarterback kind of loosen up, do stuff like that on the plane, not afraid to like have fun with his teammates, let them videotape him and make fun of him on social media. I mean, that's kind of the next step of like really gelling with not just the offense, but the defense. Because you see DBs now coming up, putting the chain on Kirk on the plane. What do you think is the reason for Kirk kind of coming out of his shell now, when you think about he's been in this league forever, but he's finally looks like he's loosening up and coming out of his shell?
That's one simple answer, man. That's coaching, right? That's Kevin O'Connell coming in, knowing he's got some dudes on this football team, right? So they went out and got a couple more guys, but his offense is loaded with talent. So what's been the one problem? Like Kirk, like Cousins, been like Zimmer had a chokehold on this dude, right? So the first thing Coach O'Connell does is come in and go like, hey, Kirk, you're the guy. We ain't looking for nobody else. All right, you just need to relax. Like you say, maybe take that T-shirt untuck that T-shirt out of your sweatpants, right? Let loose a little bit, because I got complete confidence in you. And the thing has always been is Kirk isn't a bad quarterback. Like I always tell people, he's not a bad quarterback. He just hasn't been able to finish games, right? And so there's a reason for that, right? So now this dude is loose. You can see everybody like each other. Like Coach O'Connell has brought in this relaxed atmosphere and accountability to these guys. Like, okay, I'm going to loosen you guys up, but I'm going to hold you guys accountable as professionals. And you can see that in the way they play. I mean, this team in 1 year has changed dramatically, just from a player feelings. Like they feel for each other. Under Zimmer just looked like they was on pins and needles, all the time. Now these guys love playing for each other, and it shows on the field, because those close games they was losing last year, now they're pulling them out. So that's coaching. Yeah,
well, I love that take. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Vikings do now. You got the bye week. Now you got to win the bye week, as PJ Fleck would say. Don't end up in the media. Don't end up on TMZ. Just go to because I heard guys all last night saying they were going back to Miami, like they're going to fly to Minnesota last night and then literally jump on a plane Monday morning and head back to Miami for a lot of these guys. And so that's the one thing.
Don't stay off of the boat, bro.
Exactly. Don't have a boat party. Don't be on TMZ. Like, relax, rest. But coming up next, I'm looking forward to this with Rickey Foggie. We're going to have the Daily 3. As I said, Sam Ekstrom's going to jump on. He's going to read us some questions. We're going to answer them. We got 3 minutes on the clock. And make sure you check out our Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast on YouTube, following every Twins, Vikings, Wild, or Wolves game. Our Locked On team hosts are broadcasting live with team insiders. Never miss a podcast by subscribing to Locked On Sports Minnesota on YouTube. And this is the one time where you're going to have Wolves, Wild, and Vikings breakdowns all in the same week sometimes. Of course, we could have had some Twins, but they couldn't find a way to get it done. But also the Amazon Fire and Roku now have the Minnesota Locked On Sports app. You can get all of our videos. Well, here we go. This is the Daily 3. Take it away, Sam.
All right. I want each of your revised Gophers win-loss predictions for the season. They are 6 games in. They've got 6 games left at the exact halfway point of the year, and they're 4-2 right now. So, Ron Johnson, you can go first. Where will the Gophers end up record-wise this season?
Oh, man, this is a tough one for me, Sam. I can't believe you did this to me. But here's where I go with this. I think Iowa, Wisconsin. When you look at the Gophers' schedule, so you start off early. Everybody had them going at this point like with like 10-2, and everybody still saying 10-2 is for the taking. Michigan State is not as good as Michigan State thought they were. Michigan State is not as good as Mel Tucker thought he was, but they did find a way to win against Wisconsin. So this is what college football does. Tennessee beat Alabama, which I think a lot of people saw coming, but Tennessee beat Alabama. Alabama's now 6. I can't imagine a year without Alabama in the college football playoff, and I'm pretty sure Condoleezza Rice and her friends are going to find a way to get Alabama back in this. But when you look at the Gophers' schedule going forward, you got Penn State coming up. I'm going to leave that one out of this. I think they can beat Rutgers. That's 1. I know they can beat Nebraska. That's 2. Northwestern is always a toss-up, but Northwestern comes to Minnesota November 12th. So 1, it's going to be a little chilly. We know Northwestern's going to come out there and try to take their shirts off and get their nipples out in the air and show everybody they're tough. But I feel like Mo Ibrahim, again, week after week, his ankle's going to continue to get healthier. He had a heavy wrap on that ankle and still was able to go out there and ball out. You can tell, though, he didn't have that push. He didn't have that quick twitch on that hurt ankle. But when he got through, he got through. And so I'm going to count Northwestern. That's 3. And then you got Iowa, Wisconsin. That's 5. So that's 5 wins there. If they lose to Purdue, Illinois, and Penn State, it does feel bad. And this is why. Because they're all in a row. That's a 3-game losing streak. So to go from winning that many games to losing, I'm going to say 9-3. That's my prediction right now.
Rickey?
Yeah, I have to agree with Ron. I'm going 8-4. I agree with everything that Ron says, except for Iowa. I just think for some weird reason, France has this hold on Coach Fleck, and I don't know what it is. He just can't beat him. We can beat Wisconsin at any time, anywhere. I just don't. I'm not sold that we can beat Iowa for some reason. Probably because he haven't beaten Iowa. So I'm okay with everything that Ryan said. I'm going 8-4.
Okay. Brian Ferentz, though, I mean, this is the one. If we're going to beat Iowa, this is the year because Brian Ferentz can't figure out how to call play. Like, that dude looks so lost. Every time the media, I love when they show him trying to call a play in a crucial moment. He looks so lost. Like, Dad, help me out. Like, I don't know what to call here. And his dad's like, dude, I'm paying you over $1 million. Like, bro, get it together. Like, total nepotism there. What you got next, Sam?
All right, so if you look at the Big Ten standings right now, it's like it's upside down. You would never believe that the order from top to bottom is the correct order because it looks backwards. Illinois, Nebraska, and Purdue are the current top 3 in the Big Ten West. So my question to you, which of those 3 teams has the best chance to actually win the Big Ten? Ron, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go with Illinois. I don't know what's going on with Brett Bielema, but he's got that team playing well. Now, there's the thing. People forget about the transfer portal. That Tommy DeVito kid was not his quarterback. He got a quarterback out of the portal just like USC got Caleb Williams. It doesn't always work because we know also Nebraska got not Nebraska, but Kansas State got Martinez. He's won some games, but I've heard he's not as good as people think he is. He's running well in certain games. But when you get a quarterback like Tommy DeVito out of the transfer portal, kid can run, kid is accurate, he's a veteran. That's what Brett Bielema did. Like, he found a guy that said, you know what, you're a stopgap quarterback. You're probably not my future, but you're going to get me through this, and I am going to turn this program around. Well, that's what he does. And he has a great running back. Like, he has a great run game. So when you can run the ball like that, your defense doesn't give up big plays, and your quarterback is playing well, I'm going to go with Illinois because of who you look at they got left. They got Nebraska, they got Michigan State, they got Purdue, they got Michigan. They're going to get their butts kicked against Michigan, but then they got Northwestern. Like, their next, their next 5 games are winnable except for Michigan. Michigan's going to beat the brakes off of them, but I don't know, though. Michigan might not say they're going to lose, but it might be a close one because Brett Bielema knows Michigan. Like, he knows this Big Ten. So I'm going to go with that. I think Illinois has the best chance right now with the record with the teams they have left.
Rickey?
Okay. And you say the question was who's going to win the Big Ten or the West?
Illinois, Purdue, and Nebraska are the top three. So which of them has the best chance to emerge as the Big Ten West champion?
Oh, okay. I get it now because I was about to say none of them gonna win the Big Ten, right? So yeah,
I believe you
again,
there.
unfortunately, I'm gonna have to agree with Ron again. I don't usually do this many times, um, but that portal is real, right? The transfer portal is real. If you can get one, two, or three key guys to help uplift your program, and DeVito is that guy for Illinois. You know, he's not a great quarterback, but he's accurate. He can move. They rely heavily on that running back. And Illinois is just Wisconsin when Bielema was there years ago. You know, he's taking that same formula they had at Wisconsin, pound the football, play hard-nosed defense, and don't turn the ball over, and we'll just physically beat you up. And so, yeah, like I said again, I'll agree with Ron this time. Illinois.
November 12th, I think is going to side the West because Illinois and Purdue play each other. But yeah, I think, Nebraska still has to play Minnesota. Purdue still has to play Wisconsin. I mean, there's some tough ones in there. So I think, they got to play Wisconsin this week. So I think November 12th, Purdue versus Illinois, which who would ever thought that would decide the Big Ten West? But that's a game everybody's going to be watching. What you got next, Sam?
Yeah, last one. I want to get an NFL question in here. Who is the most underrated quarterback in the NFL today? Maybe it's Kirk Cousins, or maybe it's somebody else. Ron Johnson, who you got?
The most underrated. I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts. Like, I think Jalen Hurts, everybody was like writing him off and kind of saying like, oh, they got to figure this out. Jalen Hurts, I mean, watching him against Dallas, this kid has control. And what I love, and Rickey brought this up, the Eagles know what they have in him. When it's time to ice a game, it's the Jalen Hurts show with his legs. Like, they just run the ball. And that's how he got beat up on the Vikings. Like, you can't tackle this guy with an arm tackle. You got to wrap him up like a running back. Like, the kid can squat 600 pounds. Like, he is a beast. And so when it's time, I think they had like a 7-minute drive to kind of take a lot of time away from the Cowboys to have a chance to come back. But it was give the ball to Jalen Hurts. We're going to run the RPO. If you guys keep backing up, scared of the pass from A.J. Brown, and A.J. Brown too, I mean, you give Jalen Hurts. That's why now I see why the Titans coach, when they made that trade during the draft, and I don't know if he knew the cameras were on him, he like stood up and slammed his like, are you kidding me? Did we just trade our best receiver? And then last night you saw why he was pissed off. A.J. Brown with the ball in space is tough. And now you give Jalen Hurts a weapon like that. You add Darius Slay. You added the other corner, number 24, Gardner Johnson. Like, that team is playing well. And so I got to go with Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is underrated.
Rickey, who you got?
Finally, I don't have to agree with Ron. I'm going with Daniel Jones for the Giants.
Ooh.
Wow. And as we've kind of mentioned in this podcast, it's like coaching, right? So the guy from the Bills comes over who had a stud in Josh Allen. And trust me, Daniel Jones is no Josh Allen, right? But this guy knows how to call plays, right? They got Saquon Barkley. He's back. He's healthy. And they're not heavily relying on Daniel Jones like they was his first couple of years. They got him some receivers, and he's letting him chunk it. Saquon Barkley is balling out like he was, a couple of years ago. And I think the Giants are 5-1 or 4-2. And, that's something that I don't think many people realize was going to happen this early in the season. So Daniel's playing really good, consistent football. And that's my guy. Daniel Jones, I think, is underrated.
Yeah, Giants are 5-1. They're second in the NFC East. When you look at the NFC East, it used to be the dumpster of the NFL for a couple seasons. And now you got the undefeated Eagles. You got the 5-1 Giants, the competing Dallas Cowboys who just lost to the Eagles. I mean, that's a tough division. And then you got the Washington Commanders. But that's a tough division when you look at those three, probably because of the way that rest of the NFC is playing right now. I mean, the Packers are 3-3. The 49ers are 3-3. Tampa Bay is not doing well. It's This is the year. Now, this is definitely a year for the Vikings to make the playoffs, but now there's a year where 3 NFC East teams, because 7 teams make it, might make the playoffs, which is crazy to think the Giants are going to, and the Jets might be in the playoffs. I mean, that's even crazier. Like the Jets might make it in the playoffs. Like Zach Wilson's getting it done. But I want to thank Rickey Foggie for joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. Make sure you go back and watch the interview if you have not seen the Sitting Down with Rickey Foggie segment. Find our videos on Locked On Sports Minnesota's YouTube channel, and also Amazon Fire, Roku. Make sure you go on there. It's on your TV. It's on your tablet. You can get all the Locked On Sports Minnesota shows when you download that app. You'll find the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on those 2 stations. You can see all the YouTube stuff right there on your TV. I want to thank you guys. Continue to like, download, share, comment. Let us know what you think. Who's the most underrated quarterback in the NFL? Is Rickey Foggie right? Did one coaching change help Kirk Cousins come out of his shell? You tell us. Well, thank you. Have a great day.